So I'm particularly excited to do this episode for the simple fact that it deals with a multitude of things that I'm really interested in. For one, if you're my age, somewhere in your late 30s, mid 30s, or early 30s, I think it's safe to say that you grew up listening to Tupac Shakur and the music that was heavily influential in the modern times of today. Now, obviously, you look at the modern rap music of today, it seems very contrasting to the modern style of, let's say, drill, grime, and all the other new stuff that's going on that's way different than the 90s or the G-Funk West Coast era of gangster rap. But nonetheless, I think it's really fascinating that Floyd Mayweather is in this situation right now where a lot of people are implying that he witnessed the murder of none other than Tupac Shakur. Now, why is that interesting? Because, for one, you got to understand, right? In the fight game, there's an aspect of what is real and what is not. And by the way, I've heard in a comment section in one of the early videos where people are complaining about, that I have a warning sign going on that I'm ignoring. And so I'm just going to put on my seatbelt so that this way, this does not interfere with the content that I am currently creating right now. So back to Floyd Mayweather and Tupac Shakur. So, as you know, in a fight game, a lot of people always talk about whether this guy is really a gangster or not, right? And then you also see that in the NBA and other sports as well, where you got multi-millionaire guys pretending to be gangsters. Aaron Hernandez in the football world, in the NFL, is a great example of that. He went and killed somebody in the Boston area when he was playing for the Patriots, and then all of a sudden gets implied for murder, gets charged for murder, and then hangs himself in the cell that he was locked up in because he just couldn't handle jail. He wasn't really all about that life, and why would he be? The guy is a multi-millionaire. Now, Floyd is in that same category right now. And why do I say that? Well, you got to understand something about Floyd Mayweather, right? A lot of people understand that he is the greatest boxer in the world. And when you're that guy, do you really need to go out there and play gangster? To what extent is that useful for your career? Now, you've seen the likes of McGregor, you've seen the likes of Jorge Masvidal, you've seen the likes of Nate Diaz, and you've seen how that was beneficial to their career and their persona and the brand that they are building that sells pay-per-view tickets and merchandise. Now, with Floyd Mayweather, this is a guy who has built a multi-million-dollar empire, probably even a billion-dollar empire, based on the controversy that a lot of people wanted to see him lose. So when you went out and saw the Oscar De La Hoya fight, you went out and saw the Sugar Ray fight, the Sugar Shane Mosley fight. It was because you wanted to see him lose. The Ricky Hatton fight, you wanted to see him lose. Manny Pacquiao, you wanted to see him lose. Well, guess what? He doesn't, because he fooled you into thinking that these guys had a shot, and they really didn't all along. And so because of that, now you have a situation where Floyd Mayweather is in this situation where he's telling the cops that he's seen Tupac get murdered. Or, I'm sorry, did he tell the cops? I don't think he did, but there's a thing in the hood called dry snitching. So why I think this is important to bring up is because you got to ask yourself, what is your identity in the world of fighting? Are you a gangster or are you just an athlete? And I think Floyd now is in a situation where he maybe has to give up information on what it is that he saw that night when Tupac Shakur got killed in that Las Vegas Strip. This was in 1996 when Floyd Mayweather was a rookie in his pro debut, right? This was his first year as a pro fighter. And he was living in Vegas. He was living in an apartment near the area of which Tupac was shot. And because of that, he and his homeboys, as he claims the story to have taken place, said that, yeah, only me and my boys were the only ones that knew about it. And you can see that in a video surfacing back in 2014 when him and the late John Singleton, the director of Boys in the Hood and other films in the 90s, was touring around Las Vegas, and Floyd Mayweather was showing him around saying, hey, look, this is where Tupac got shot at. And so now you got to think to yourself, with all the situation that is going on with Las Vegas PD right now, right? They got this guy, Keefe D, who was part of the Southside Crips, where his nephew got jumped by Tupac and his crew and Suge Knight during that night when Mike Tyson fought Bruce Seldon. So now you're in that situation, and what are you going to do if the Las Vegas PD starts asking you questions? Are you going to do the right thing? Which, by the way, what exactly does that even mean? Because we're talking about two different types of ethos going on here, right? We have the code of the streets, and then we have the code of what normal civilians do when things happen to them. Now, is it snitching if, let's say, you get into a car accident and you need to file a police report in order for you to claim to your insurance about the damages that have gone on in the accident? Is that snitching? Is it snitching if, let's say, you go and tell the police about the neighborhood nunce, the neighborhood child molester that's roaming around in your neighborhood? Are you going to tell the cops, or are you just going to let another kid get violated? Now, obviously, there are rules to this, and there's historical implications on matters at hand when you deal with, let's say, the word snitching, right? Why did that concept even come about? Well, for one, you got to understand there's a historical mistrust with the African American community, other minority communities, and the police, whether it's here in the United States or whether it's in England or anywhere in the Western world or anywhere in the world where a Western country has colonized people and brought people to their part of their world. This is always going to be a problem, especially when they're segregated into ghettos and into secluded parts of society, being shunned away from jobs, being shunned away from the mainstream world, and then having this establishment outlook of your society of some sort, right? And of course, you got to understand, now, are police always correct? No, absolutely not. And is there any reason why the African American community should distrust the police? Absolutely. So, of course, this policy and this idea and this ethos and his way of thinking of not snitching, by the way, is valid to a certain degree and to a certain point. Now, the other aspect of that is who lives by that code and who doesn't. Because you guys remember Tekashi 6ix9ine, right? Well, the interesting aspect about Tekashi 6ix9ine is that there are OGs out there with the likes of, let's say, Whack 100. And by the way, Whack 100, as you guys know, who's a famous music producer, was part of the Death Row entourage in the 90s and then continued his musical career or his executive career way past the 2000s, mid-2000s, and all the way to the modern times now, where he's managing drill rappers and people that make music like Tekashi 6ix9ine. Well, he's got some interesting takes on Tekashi 6ix9ine and his quote-unquote snitching situation that he had going on with the 9 Trey Bloods of New York. And what that is he says that Tekashi 6ix9ine is a civilian. He's not a gangster, so if the police ask him questions, he has the right to cooperate. And then you compound the idea of the fact that Tekashi 6ix9ine was violated by these guys in multiple ways that really creates a certain distrust that you have of a crew that was supposed to watch your back. So, in turn, it's like, could you blame Tekashi 6ix9ine? But at the same time, what does it really mean when you say that this person can't snitch or this person should not go to the police with this kind of information? Now, with Floyd, the reason why I bring Floyd into this situation is because I think that he has put himself in a situation where now this could potentially be damaging for his brand. And why is that? Well, for one, you got to understand, Floyd Mayweather is not a gangster. We know that. But at the same time, we don't know that. So why do I say that? Well, because if the fact that you don't know that he's a gangster, it's better that you don't know that he went out and snitched on somebody, especially one of the most high-profile murder cases in all of rap's history. And now you're going to be a part of that, and you could ruin a certain legacy that you have in the underworld or whatever it is that you're trying to personify yourself as. Guess what? McGregor, I don't think he's ever been in a situation where he had to be compromised to snitching in any kind of way or implied in any kind of way that he had to snitch. Of course, you could say a whole lot of things about McGregor. He is this, he's a rapist, he's done this to other people, he's done that, he's punched old men. But the one thing that you can't call Conor McGregor ever is a snitch, because he's never in that situation. Now, Colby Covington is a whole different case. Even though he exaggerates his personality in the way that Floyd Mayweather does, let's just call it what it is. Floyd Mayweather is part of the urban community. And in the urban community, the idea of snitching is just an absolute blasphemy in the most respectful terms that I could really describe it to be. Whereas with Colby Covington, guess what? You know what that guy says? When you ask him, hey, you know what? Who's going to help protect you now that everybody in the MMA world wants to kill you or wants to hurt you because of all the things that you say about Brazilians, the things that you say about Muslims, the things that you say about racial undertones that is sort of ambiguous to point out? Well, he says my protection in my gang is the Miami PD, the LAPD, the NYPD. Why? Because guess what? Colby Covington comes from an ethos to where it is normal for you to have a normal relationship with the police. You can't put Floyd in that same standard. So that is the difference between the likes of Colby Covington and the likes of Floyd Mayweather when it comes to this no snitching policy. So, what's going to happen now with this Tupac case? Who knows? But the fact that Floyd Mayweather is implied in this whole entire fiasco, I think, is the most interesting part about it. But just like all theaters of the unknown, let's see what happens next. And by the way, I will be making a part 2 of this, but this time I'm going to do it live. So catch part 2 on this one on the live.